Welcome. My name is Eileen Fleischman, and I am Vice Dean and Executive Director of the UB Law Alumni Association. Thank you all for attending today's CLE presentation, How to Access Free and Low-Cost Legal Resources for COVID-19 Related Matters, presented by Nina Cascio, UB International Law Librarian in the Charles B. Sears Law Library. This is one in a series of many virtual programs the Law Alumni Association is hosting as a service for our alumni and law students. If you are interested in attending other upcoming webinars and CLEs, you can register on the UB Law School website, law.buffalo.edu/alumni events. You can also listen to past CLE and other webinar recordings at no charge on our new Alumni Education webpage, also located on the Law School website. The UB Law Library has asked me to let our alumni know that while the Law Library will be closed to the public for the fall semester, attorneys will still be able to visit in person, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, but only by appointment. Virtual research assistance also is available. To contact a UB Law Librarian, email asklaw@buffalo.edu or call 716-645-2047. If you find the CLE valuable and would like to help us continue offering our free education services, we ask you to become either an annual or lifetime member of the UB Law Alumni Association. Now, a few administrative points. You will be muted during the course of the presentation. If you have a question at any time, please use the chat room, and we will try to address the questions at the end. At some point during the course of the CLE, the course code will be announced and put on the chat room. Please be sure to catch it, as you need to put it on the online attorney verification form that was included in your confirmation. This form is required to issue you your CLE credit. Please also return the program evaluation form found on that page. It is now my great pleasure to introduce and thank our speaker, Nina Cascio. Nina received her Bachelor of Arts degree from SUNY Binghamton and a Juris Doctor and Master of Library Science degrees from the University at Buffalo. She has been an international law librarian since 1985 and is one of the 4 reference librarians you will encounter when contacting the UB Law Library. Thank you, Nina. Take time to start.
Okay, thank you very much, Eileen. And thank you everybody who's here. It's great to see you, even though I can't see you. Hopefully this presentation will be useful in some way. Hopefully you'll at least come away with something new, although I'm sure many of you will already be familiar with some of the sources that I'm going to highlight. And you probably saw that there are 3 handouts posted on the website. A couple of them came in at 3 a.m., so you may not have had a chance to see them yet. But one of them is the largest handout that I have on the screen right now, how to access free and low-cost legal resources for COVID-19 related matters, and I subtitled it A Bird's Eye View of Selected Resources, because this is just a teensy-weensy part of all of the sources that are available. I'm sure that anyone who is in the world right now is absolutely inundated with materials, resources, news, images, more than you possibly could care for. And but this is our lives right now. So I've categorized some of the sources by what you can see in this outline here. But Lexis has put together a really great infographic visual of the breadth of coverage. I'm going to click on this link right here and show you the breadth of coverage in the news. As you know, LexisNexis is one of the major news databases in the world. I think it's one that probably every journalism school subscribes to for their students. But in particular, these two documents or visualizations are interesting. This one, I don't know if you can see it well enough, but you can make it bigger on your screen. Which societal risks are dominating in the media? And you can see infectious diseases is one. And if you take a look at it, there are 58,000 articles just on that topic. Wages and salaries, 49,000 articles. If we go up here to the I, it might tell us see what's trending in near real time. So I'm not sure of the exact time period this is covering, but you can see it's a tremendous amount of coverage. Here's negative personal news, which is over 30,000 articles. And you can see there's a whole array of other topics in this COVID context. And then over here, this other graphic is which economic risks are trending at the moment. And you can see here's agreements, layoffs, manufacturing facilities, negative personal news again, disease agents and vectors, negative business news, public health, and so on. So many, many topics, many of which, or all of which, have a legal impact. I mean, these issues go in tandem with the legal issues that you would be researching. So anyway, this is a really interesting analysis of a lot of the what's going on in the news, which reflects what's going on in society. So I just wanted to kind of make that point, and just to emphasize, as we already know, how much there is out there. I have a few other links here with maps. This category is facts, maps, and data. This is just a teensy bit of what is available out there. I also have a link to a few timelines, which is interesting because there certainly is a certain amount of discussion about what happened when. And so these are, something that you can examine. Even though this is supposed to be free resources, I do believe you may need a New York Times subscription to see the New York Times timeline. If you come to UB and use some of our resources, you may be able to see that through some of our commercial databases. So right now, I just want to put in a plug for coming to the law library, make an appointment, and not only will you, be able to use our print collection, but you will have access to a lot of different databases that we subscribe to. And let's see. Yeah, so I'm just switching to the law library homepage, and you can see here that you can contact us, make an appointment. But if you click here on databases, hopefully you can see this, you can see the law library has access to many, many law-related databases, most of which are not restricted if you're on campus. So even if you're not a law student, you can get access. Including, we have a version of Westlaw called Westlaw Campus Research and International Content that anyone can use if they come to the law library. So you would have to make an appointment with the reference librarians right here, and you will be able to access these on campus in the law library. So I just wanted to mention that. And the source that I'm going to be talking about next, which is Law 360, is a news source, strictly legal news that is, yeah, sorry, I'm not sure what the technological issues are, but hopefully they can be resolved. Anyway, if you go to the law library website, you can just click on databases in the tab, and you'll see an array of a number of databases. And that is just a subsection of what is available at UB. UB subscribes to a tremendous number of databases, many more than show up on the law library webpage, but which you would also have access to if you came to campus. Okay, so that was a commercial for using our resources, but please feel free to contact us. Okay, so the next category is news, and part of the reason I'm really emphasizing this is that there is so much breaking news on the COVID front. As you know, it's very hard to keep up with, and it seems as though something new is happening every day, maybe twice a day or 3 times a day, or continuously. So I'm going to go to the Law 360. This is a subset of Law 360. Everybody in the world has access to this coronavirus information. There are many, many news sources and other information providers who provide coronavirus coverage for free, even to non-subscribers, and that is true for Law 360. So if you're not familiar with Law 360, it is a database that is available in Lexis News, although it doesn't have the visuals. But it's a very good legal news database because it's so current, and they also link to a lot of documents. So it's definitely made for attorneys. So as you look at any of these, if you look at any of these documents or any of these articles, sorry, you can see that there are links to other resources. They will give you a docket number, which is not true for most non-legal news outlets. And also you can see up here, there are links to the various documents associated with whatever lawsuit they're talking about in the article or whatever issue it is. So here's the order and a complaint. So so this is a really great website for news, and the articles having to do with coronavirus you should be able to get access to even without a subscription. So I definitely recommend this site, and you can see that there's also expert analysis, so you can take advantage of that as well. Okay, so if you come to the law library, this is a database that you in fact can access while in the library. I'm not sure if while you're in the library, if you're not a subscriber, if you can set up a newsletter, but these are, I'm clicking here, right up here on see all 61 sections. These are all of the topics for which they have newsletters available that you can subscribe to, and every day you will get an email, which is very nicely organized, and somebody thought about the design. And you can just scan through the articles. So New York is, one of those topics. And I have to say the email is even better organized than this page is. but you can see there are many new articles and expert analysis. So it's easy to keep track of what the current news, legal news is. This is not part of the free subscription, but if you happen to subscribe, and I do not know how much it costs for a private firm or individual to subscribe to Law 360, but if you were interested, you could contact them. I think Lexis bought Law 360 about 5 or 6 years ago, and so it's a really good current awareness resource. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and since we're talking about news, I know everybody searches Google. I don't think there's a person who doesn't. But one of the things I want to do in this presentation, in addition to giving you an overview of the types of resources that exist, I also want to give you a few Google tips. Right now, we're looking at the Google News component of Google, and you can see that they have a COVID-19 portal, and you can scan through these articles. You can also search them, and they have these categorized, which is nice. And you'll notice too that they have links to Twitter posts from various entities. Practically every government agency, any government official, any private company, any law firm, any news outlet, any news reporter has a Twitter account. And so I'm going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about Twitter as well as a resource that you can mine for current information. And again, with the COVID pandemic, there is always something new going on, and it intersects with so many other issues going on in the world as well. So anyway, so this is Google News, and if we just step aside for a minute and go to regular Google. Okay, can you see the Google search screen here? Okay, so I just want to give you a few tips about Google searching, because you can extract so much more than you probably know if you haven't been using the advanced Google techniques, which are actually pretty simple. If you start practicing with them, they'll become second nature. And I use them every day, in fact. So let's say that we wanted to do a search for digital immunity passport. Okay, notice I put that in quotation marks. You probably already know that that is how you would do a phrase. And then I'm going to search for COVID or coronavirus. And many people don't know that you can use the Boolean connector or. It has to be in capital letters. But you should use that for alternative terms if you would like. Why did I do that? Sorry. As you can tell, typing is not my forte. Okay, so this time we'll click search. Okay, so here's digital immunity passport, COVID or coronavirus, and we have 39,000 hits. And these will be pretty interesting. Excuse me. But we can we're not going to look at all of these. And the point of using advanced Google commands is to get it so that what you're really interested in comes to the top. So I can use a site search, SITE colon, and restrict my results to particular domains. I could do ORG if I want to find results with from an organization with a .org ending to their website. You can also do .edu, .com, and so on. I'm going to do .com, and then I am going to add a file type restriction. If I do FILETYPE, file type, here is where I can restrict the format of the results. So I could say, oh, I want it to be in PDF format, which a lot of reports are in. And if you were ever hunting far and wide for a case on Google, file type PDF, file type colon PDF, notice there are no spaces here, is a really good restrictor to use because so many cases are in PDF format. So here you can see, if you take a look at the URLs, these are all PDFs and they all come from a .com domain. This site command is also a really excellent tool to use if you ever encounter a website that does not have a good search engine or any search engine. So let's say that you wanted to search the UN. You could do UN.org. Or maybe it is now INT. No, it's neither of those. But if we do EE, that is the country code for Estonia. But we could do it for any particular website as well, like bbc.com. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to point out those tools. And the other tool that a lot of people don't know about is Tools, which allows you to do a date restriction. Right here, the default is anytime, but if you click on that, you can find out what's been posted in the past 24 hours, the past hour, the past month, the past year. So I'm going to click on past month. And so here are the documents from the BBC on this topic that came out in the past month. So the whole idea of using these restrictors is to make your search so precise that the best results are coming to the top, because some of these you may have otherwise missed. Okay, so I'm going to move on and go to the section on Twitter very quickly, since I mentioned it before as being a current awareness tool. You might think, you know, this is like kind of stupid to cover Twitter, but as I mentioned before, there are many government officials who are who have a Twitter account and who post things there. It is also a way to find links to documents or articles, because people post a lot of links. So you'll get a lot of really current information this way, possibly even earlier than you would find in news stories. But you can see that Twitter even has a little COVID-19 portal. And I am not signed in. And so I can see all of these postings and news stories. You can see there's a tremendous amount of news stories here as well. You don't have to be signed in to do a Twitter search. There are certain things I'm going to talk about in a minute that if you have a Twitter account, you get a lot more malleability in the tool. I personally do not have a Twitter app on my phone. I only search it on my desktop as a research tool, and I also don't really post. When I first got an account a number of years ago, I tried out posting, but there are a lot of things you can do with Twitter, a lot of things you can put out there. You can communicate with people with caution, I might add. But it's a great account to have just so you can use it and manipulate it, and you don't expose yourself because you aren't posting anything. So, so you can put in, for example, New York and COVID. And so here are some results for New York and COVID. And you can see that they're posted by lots of different people. There are videos posted, and you can examine, who these people are. And if you find somebody who you're interested in, you can take a look at their account. Like here is New York Governor Cuomo. And so here is his account, which we're taking a look at. And notice that I'm still not signed in, and I can still see a lot of resources. So, so this is everything that Governor Cuomo has posted on his account. And now I'm going to sign in and show you something that that you can only do if you're signed in. Okay, so taking a look at what somebody has posted, it's as if this person is the author. You can see that there are a lot of hashtags. This is sort of like a subject heading. The difference is, if you were using an online catalog, it's the Library of Congress who develops the subject headings. In Twitter and other social media sites, it's all the users who create the hashtags. So it's a little bit more random, but still can be useful. Okay, so here's what I want to show you that you can do that makes it very even more useful. See these three dots right here? If you click on those, you can view lists. Now, lists are groups of Twitter accounts that you can follow without following them. So you don't have to click on it and say, oh, I'm following this person, and this person. What you can do is follow a group of people. So for example, here's one, Democratic governors, and this was created by whoever the user is at DemGovs. If you go to New York State government, this was created by Governor Cuomo. If you go to Storm Updates, this was created by Senator Gillibrand. If you, and also Storm Watch was created by Andrew Cuomo. So I'm going to click on New York State government. And so this is the list. And I can see that it is New York State government, New York State agencies, authorities, and public servants. It was created by Andrew Cuomo. It has 93 members. That means he is tracking 93 entities in this list. And there are 3.8 thousand people who've signed up for this list. So if you click here on members, you can see these are all of the people whose tweets are included in this list. If you clicked here, you would see everybody in the world who's following them. So if I click on, so I'm already following it, so I'm not going to unfollow it, but I'm going to go back to my account, and this here is everybody who I follow. But if I click over here on lists, here are all of the lists that I follow, and one of them is the New York one right here, New York State Government, Andrew Cuomo. So if I click here, now I'm looking at everything that has been posted by all of those entities in this particular list. So it's a way of glancing at postings. For example, here's ambassadors, which was created by this individual. And I have a whole bunch more. Here's one that you might be interested in: epidemic science and health. So this was created by someone named Josh Marshall. It has 44 members, and these are the scientists and other people who are in this list. And so here are all of the tweets from those people. So you can look at tweets in categories, essentially. Okay, so just wanted to point that out. You can do a search, and there's also an advanced search. So you can do a lot of different fancier restrictions, but I'm not going to go into those right now. Okay, so let me see if I can close this window. All right, so let's move on to a couple other things. Probably you guys know that there is a Trump Twitter archive that, I have to click on it over here, that has tracked all of the tweets that President Trump has put out, and there are a lot of categories, and you can also search them. So if you click here, you can search. So for example, COVID, and you can see sometimes it's COVID, sometimes it's COVID-19, sometimes it's COVID-19 without a dash. And so you can see all of the tweets on a particular topic. Over here on tips, it shows you how to search, and these are not the normal commands. So as is true with any database you encounter, you might want to at least find out the basic search methods. Okay, let me try to close this. And by the way, there's a tremendous body of scholarly research that uses Twitter data sets. And if you ever happen to take a look through the scholarly literature, you'll be surprised how much is written based on Twitter data. Here's an article. The DOJ says Trump's tweets are official presidential statements, and it mentions a couple cases in that article. And then here's a search that you can do: Trump tweet official statement, and then a site search, site:/justice.gov. So you can search the DOJ website for those terms and see what else they have to say. Justia Blog Search is a blog search engine just for legal law blogs. And sometimes this is a good current events resource. You can see here they've categorized blogs by topic. So for example, here's healthcare law. There are 57 separate blogs. And you can see the postings here, sort of in a little nutshell, the most recent postings for each of these. And so if you clicked on one of these, you would go right to the site. And you can see a lot of these actually are put out by law firms or attorneys. So there's quite a variety. The other thing that you can do is search. There is a COVID-19 update for laws and legal resources that you could take a look at, because there are other resources here. I typically use it for the blog searching. So if you just do a search for COVID, you can see these are the current or the blog postings from any of the blogs listed here, and you can resort them by date if you want to. So these are the most current blog posts. Okay, moving on. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to say the code. The CLE course code is AskLaw for anyone who is interested and needs that information. All right, moving on. Whoops, I chose the wrong window. Okay, can you see the guide again? Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on, both Lexis and Westlaw have free materials online, but if you have a subscription, I recommend going there, and you will have a link to the COVID resources that they've kind of set aside. But I'm not going to go there right now, because I think that you guys probably know how to navigate that, and you can always come to the law library, or the Supreme Court the Supreme Court Library downtown is also open by appointment. So call them as well if you need access to Lexis or Westlaw, and I definitely recommend using those sources for any research project. But just taking a look at some of the additional kind of specialized tools here, one that I want to point to, and of course you can explore the rest of these sources on your own when you have free time that maybe you have or not. This Stanford Law School's COVID-19 memo database and firm resource database. This is a nice portal for finding the COVID-19 domain on these law firm websites. So if you click on the COVID-19 firm resources database, you can see the firms listed here, and these are some of the major firms. And then over here on the right, they list their little COVID-19 portal. So when you click on it, you'll go right to their web page, and then you can see the various postings that they have on the topic. The other component to their database, this COVID-19 memo database, allows you to search the title of the documents that they have in their repository. So, and you can see over here on the left the title, so you can just kind of scroll them as well. So if I type in force majeure and try to spell it right, do I know how to spell it? I think I did it the wrong way.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So here you can see all of the documents on that specific topic from these law firms. So here, force majeure claims in future waves of COVID-19 for key actions, and you can see this is from July 8th. So, so there's a lot of advice out here, a lot of suggestions, and it's advertising for the law firms, but it's it can be very useful for others. So I just wanted to point that out. That's a pretty new resource. In addition, okay, I know we don't have a huge amount of time here. The government response to coronavirus, this is under Section 6, U.S. Federal Resources. The government response under executive, this will take you to a list of government, U.S. federal agencies, and categorized. So here, what is, well, the first category, top U.S. government websites for COVID-19 information. So you can see what they consider the top ones. Here's what is the federal government doing in response to COVID-19. So by category, health and safety. And so these are all the federal agency actions, travel, immigration and transportation, money and taxes, education, scams and fraud. There's a tremendous number of scams and a lot of false information out there. So there are a lot of scam trackers, both government and non-government out there, but these are the government, some of the government ones. Benefits and grants, housing, federal building status updates and national parks, and so on. Voting and elections, courts, communications, businesses, international cooperation, cybersecurity, federal workforce. So, and then how are states responding? So here it says, visit your state health department website. And again, if you can get to an individual website, grab the URL and you can do whatever search you want to, because those Google search commands allow you to really hone in on content on specific websites. All right, moving on to Congress.gov. So after the executive is the legislative. And my colleague Brian Detweiler covered this a few weeks ago when he did another CLE, which you might want to listen to if you weren't able to attend. This is one of the sites listed in his document. But if you go to Congress.gov, you can track the legislation as it moves through Congress. So if you click up here on legislation, for example, you can do a search in the search bar for coronavirus. And you can see that there are 764 results. But as is true for so many databases today, using, or these days, using the filters usually on the left side is extremely useful. So if we go to status of legislation, you can see there are 761 pieces of legislation that have been introduced, 21 that have been considered by committee, 33 that have had floor consideration, 1 that failed one chamber, 29 that passed one chamber, and so on. And down at the bottom is became law. So you can see that there are 8 that became law, which I think is more than the last time I checked. So I clicked on that as my filter. And so here are the 8 pieces of legislation that have passed Congress and been signed by the president. And I'm going to resort them by newest to oldest. So here you can see the bill to extend the authority for commitments for the PPP and separate amounts authorized for other loans under Section 7A of the Small Business Act. So you can see that this became law on July 8th. So Actually, they're not really sorted exactly accurately, but anyway, these are the 8 pieces of legislation, and if you clicked on them, you could see the full text. Another thing I want to mention is that for many of these tools, there is a way that you can set up alerts. So always take a look at the web page. I'm not sure if I can see it. I think my view is blocked, but you should be able to set up an alert so that you will get an email when something new has happened with whatever search you have composed. Okay. Having your email full of alerts or newsletters sometimes can be handy if you know you've read something. Sometimes searching your email is an efficient way to locate what it was you were thinking of. Oh, actually, I wanted to show you something else while we were looking at that congress.gov website. Probably most of you know about the CRS, the Congressional Research Service. I'm back at the congress.gov site. Over here on the right, you can see Library of Congress reports. It says search the CRS reports. The Congressional Research Service is the research entity available. Oh, it's opening it here. Available to members of Congress. And there has been controversy for years and years and years that these really excellent nonpartisan analyses of issues and laws has not been widely available publicly. But in recent years, because of so much demand and controversy, more and more are available. So you can see that you can search the CRS reports, but they also have a coronavirus portal. So these are really excellent resources, and I highly recommend taking a look at them. They'll help you understand a lot of different issues in a short amount of time, things that otherwise might have been, kind of confounding. So this is all about coronavirus disease, COVID-19. And you can see that they've broken them down by issue areas. So here are all of those that have to do with agriculture and food. And there are a total of 19 reports or documents that they have put together. They have some on appropriations, on banking and finance, and a host of other topics. Here's education. So you can examine these and find out a lot about what Congress is thinking and what some of the issues are that Congress is addressing or might address. And you can see there's a lot of different topics. One of them is actually a legal analysis of all of the issues, an issue of all of the legal issues, which is somewhere in here. Oh, maybe it's under justice and law enforcement. Or maybe not, but anyway, you can examine these and find, I think I actually have a link to it in the document I created, so you can find it there as well. But do take a look at these. I'll just click on one of them so you can see food safety and COVID-19. This is just an insight, so it's maybe not as in-depth as some of the other reports that they have, but you can see that they have a lot of links here. It's very well documented and very readable. It's not dense. Okay. So.
Could I, Nina?
Yeah.
For those who are not on screen view, the course code is ASKLAW. Ask Law. Thank you. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. Okay, so in this document, I put a number of government entities, and the reason that I put them here, even though they are not coronavirus specific links, most of the government entities will have specific links, and I'm sure everyone has seen the New York State website with so much information. So if you take a look at the executive orders, sometimes you might find this to be sort of a hard format to scan, but if you click here on view all executive orders, it lays it out in a little bit more readable fashion. So you can take a look at the full text of any of these and move on from there. But I do have links to quite a number of New York sources. I know everybody may not be in New York, but other states will have similar types of government websites. So here is a category for local law sources, because as we know, there are decrees and documents and guidelines from all sorts of local entities. So for example, if you click on Monroe County, there is a separate COVID-19 webpage for Monroe County, which you can take a look at if that is of interest to you. And you can also go to monroecounty.gov and do a search, do a Google search for whatever you're interested in, rent, eviction, site, monroecounty.gov, or whatever other issue you're interested in. So that's the reason that in this handout I included directories of governmental entities, so that you can start there and then use your advanced Google searching to get to the sources that are most important to you at the moment. And again, they're changing moment by moment. There are also a number of 50 state resources, and for some of you might want to take a look at what's happening across the country in any given area. There's such a wide disparity. But the Council of State Governments has a number of areas where they track what's going on across jurisdictions. So here, for example, if we click on state executive orders, we can look at them by state. So here you can see this is a pretty nice layout. It's alphabetically by state, and you can click on the link to go to the document. There also are state courts. And so this is a link to the state court websites. And oh, we're back at executive orders. You can also, I forgot to say, you can also look at these by classification. So here you have allocation inventory of PPE, and then the executive orders for each of these categories. Here's child care. Here are executive orders related to child care from all of the 50 states, or at least those that have executive orders in that area. So, so this is a really useful portal for examining a single issue across jurisdictions. And then they have a category concerning reopening. So same idea. And you can see there are many other resources here, so you can examine them as needed. But this organization does a really great job, that Council of State Governments, gathering that information and packaging it so that it's easily accessible and understandable. Okay. There is also a category here. Oh, by the way, as you know, there's new news about the New York bar exam, and on these links you can find out the status across the United States of whatever the the bar exam status is at the moment, which again is one of those topics that is changing daily. So you can find New York and take a look at the newest information and links to various documents. Okay, so that's just one 50 state link. There are many others here that are pretty useful and on all sorts of topics. All right, there's a category here for international and foreign resources. There's quite a lot of information, efforts by the Library of Congress. The American Association of Law Libraries is tracking what's going on in Asia, which could be very different from what's going on here. There are a lot of issues that may not be on our minds right now, but might be in other countries. In addition, there are many international organizations. In addition to the World Health Organization, there are a lot of other UN entities that are addressing the coronavirus issue. And so you can use the directory to go to any that you're interested in, or you can take a look at one of the portals that will accumulate that information for you. Under academic research and analysis, of course, you can use Google Scholar, and you'll notice here that Google Scholar is including full text access to COVID-19 publications from a lot of scientific journals, because those scientific journals have made them available. We haven't even talked about, oh, I clicked on the wrong link. We haven't even talked about the, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, we haven't talked about the medical literature, which is vast, but that's part of what is searched in Google Scholar, which gives you the full text of the articles. If you're looking for an article that that you find here and you can't get access to the full text, contact us in the law library, and we may have a commercial subscription to it. So don't hesitate to do that. And you can see that a lot of these have been cited by other articles. So COVID-19 immunity passports and vaccination certificates, scientific, equitable, and legal challenges. So you can take a look at the articles that cite it, and some of those may also be relevant to your research. Notice too, you can filter by date, which is always useful. Okay. And HeinOnline is an amazing database. I have a link to, oh, it's in a different document. I have a link to a list of what's in HeinOnline. It is not the most current. The content goes way back, but it's not the most current event database, but it's a very valuable database and already has some information on COVID-19. And this you get access to as a paid member of the Law School Alumni Association, which is a really great resource. All right, there are a number of other academic resources listed here, and some specialized search engines. So for example, the Harvard Kennedy School has a think tank search, which is just a subset of Google. But it's just, it just, again, focuses your searching so that you aren't out there in the entire universe. And then there are research guides. Research guides are a great tool because there are many, many librarians and professors and other people who are putting together resources on particular topics. So this, the University of Washington has a couple. One of them is actually based on a course that they put together this past spring. But one of them is links to fact-checking sites. So again, we saw fact-checking sites listed on one of the government websites, but here are some additional ones that you can take a look at to try to verify whether something you've heard is in fact true. So this is just one resource. In fact, legal research guide is a good term to include in a Google search. If you're trying to find resources, put in your topic, you know, CARES Act, legal research guide, and then see what comes up. And it could be that somebody's already put together a lot of resources for you. So I think my time is up, and I just want to point to the other two handouts that that are on the website. There's one that has some of the Google tips that I mentioned, and some of the Twitter search tips if you want to try those out. And the other one is called Resource Tips. And in addition to encouraging you to, you know, learn some more about some of the Google search tips, my second tip is hire a law student. They get free access to their Lexis educational account that they can use for work during the summer. So that's an amazing resource. If you don't have access to Lexis, your law student will. And Westlaw, the students can use if they're working for a nonprofit organization or in an externship setting. My third tip, join the Alumni Association. You get access to Hein Online from home or wherever. Great convenience. And then lastly, contact your local law libraries because they can help you, even though their doors are closed and they look like they're shut down and their website says they're closed. If you call them, there are probably people there answering their phone. Even if they're at home, they can probably help you. And in the case of the law library here at UB, you know, we will come in and if we're not already here on the premises, and we will allow you into the library to use our databases or our print sources. We have a lot of treatises in print still. We do have certain rules about using masks, but that's normal everywhere now. And so I included here a directory of law libraries. For those of you who are not in Buffalo, you can look up public access law libraries elsewhere in New York, government law libraries, academic law libraries across the US. If you look for those that are public, it could be that they'll let non-university people in because they're a public entity. And then I also found a directory of law libraries serving prisoners, so I put that in too. And then just contact information for the UB Law Library and the Supreme Court Library downtown. So hopefully that will be handy. And I just want to thank Eileen and Brian and Tedros and the whole crew at UB and everybody who's watching. I hope you at least learned one new thing or about a source that might be useful to you. And please don't hesitate to contact us in the law library at UB. So,
And I'd like to again thank our speaker, Nana Cascio, for your time and wonderful expertise, and Brian Detweiler for your assistance today. Everyone, please be sure to send in your attorney verification form and program evaluation so that we can issue your CLE certificate. Thank you for attending, and look to our website for future webinars and CLEs. Thank you.